The distress call. Captain Nora Hawkins stood on the bridge of the human spaceship Intrepid, her eyes fixed on the vast expanse of stars before her. The Intrepid, a state-of-the-art vessel designed for deep space exploration and diplomacy, had been traversing the outer reaches of the galaxy for months, searching for signs of intelligent life. Suddenly, a blinking light on the communications panel caught Nora's attention. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal," reported Lieutenant Jace Thompson, the ship's communications officer. Nora furrowed her brow. "A distress signal? Out here?" She stepped closer to the panel. "What's the source?" Jace's fingers danced across the console as he analyzed the data. "It appears to be coming from an uncharted star system, approximately 3 light-years away." Nora considered the information for a moment. The Intrepid's primary mission was exploration, but they couldn't ignore a call for help. "Set a course for the source of the signal," she ordered. "Let's find out who needs our assistance." As the Intrepid changed course and accelerated towards the unknown star system, Nora couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to embark on a mission that would test the limits of human ingenuity and determination. The journey to the distress signal's origin took just under a day, thanks to the Intrepid's advanced propulsion systems. As they approached the star system, the ship's sensors began to pick up more detailed information about the area. "Captain, I'm detecting a habitable planet in the system," reported Lena Nakamura, the ship's science officer. "It appears to have a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere and a climate similar to Earth's." Nora leaned forward in her chair, studying the readouts on the main view screen. "Any signs of civilization?" Lena nodded. "Yes, I'm picking up numerous energy signatures on the planet's surface, consistent with advanced technology." "And the distress signal?" Nora asked. "Still broadcasting," Jace confirmed. "It's coming from a location near the planet's largest energy signature." Nora stood up, straightening her uniform. "All right, let's proceed with caution. Hail the planet, and let them know we're here to help." As the Intrepid entered orbit around the alien world, Nora couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with trepidation. They were about to make first contact with an entirely new species, one that had reached out for help. She could only hope that they would be receptive to the aid the humans had to offer. First contact. The Intrepid entered orbit around the alien planet, its sensors scanning the surface for any signs of danger. Captain Nora Hawkins stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the main view screen, which displayed a lush green world with sprawling cities visible even from space. "Captain, we're being hailed," Jace reported, his hand pressed against his earpiece. "Audio and visual." Nora nodded. On screen. The view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The being had a slender, elongated head with large, almond-shaped eyes and skin that shimmered with iridescent hues. When it spoke, its voice was melodic and soft. "Greetings, visitors from the stars. I am Zoran, High Counselor of the Zephyrian people. We thank you for answering our distress call." Nora stepped forward, her posture confident yet friendly. "High Counselor Zoran, I am Captain Nora Hawkins of the Earth ship Intrepid. We come in peace and are here to offer assistance. What is the nature of your emergency?" Zoran's expression turned somber. "Our world is under attack by the Krodax, a warlike species from a neighboring star system. They seek to conquer our planet and enslave our people. Our defenses are failing, and we fear that without help, we will fall to their might." Nora's brow furrowed. "The Krodax? We have not encountered them before. Can you provide us with more information about their capabilities?" Zoran nodded. "The Krodax are a technologically advanced race, with powerful energy weapons and shielding technology that surpasses our own. They have a vast fleet of warships, each one heavily armed and armored. We have managed to hold them off thus far, but our resources are dwindling." Nora turned to her crew. "Lena, what do our scans show about the Zephyrian defenses?" Lena, the science officer, studied her console. "Their technology is impressive, Captain. Their cities are protected by energy shields, and they have a fleet of small, agile fighters. However, I'm detecting signs of damage and depleted energy reserves. Nora turned back to the view screen. High Counselor, we are willing to offer our assistance in defending your world against the Krodax. With your permission, I would like to send a team to the surface to assess the situation and discuss potential strategies. Zoran's expression brightened. Captain Hawkins, your offer of aid brings hope to our people. You have our permission to land, and we will gladly share what information we have about the Krodax threat. Please, come to the surface, and let us work together to find a solution. Nora smiled. Thank you, High Counselor. We will prepare a landing party immediately. Intrepid out. As the view screen returned to the image of the planet below, Nora turned to her crew. All right, people, we have a situation. The Zephyrians are facing a dangerous enemy, and it's up to us to help them. Jace, assemble a landing party. Include Lena, Dr. Michael Petrov from engineering, and a security detail. I'll be leading the team myself. The crew nodded, their expressions determined. They knew the stakes were high, but they were ready to face the challenge head-on. As the Intrepid prepared for landing, Nora couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in her crew. They were the best of the best, and she knew that together they could find a way to help the Zephyrians and confront the Krodax threat. The Krodax threat. As the Intrepid's landing party stepped onto the surface of the Zephyrian homeworld, they were greeted by a delegation led by High Counselor Zoran. The alien leader bowed gracefully, his iridescent skin shimmering in the sunlight. Welcome, Captain Hawkins and crew of the Intrepid. We are honored by your presence and grateful for your willingness to aid us in our time of need. Nora returned the bow, her posture respectful. The honor is ours, High Counselor. We are here to learn more about the Krodax threat and to offer whatever assistance we can. Zoran led the group into a nearby building, a towering structure of glimmering metal and crystalline glass. Inside, they were escorted to a large conference room, where holographic displays showed images of the Krodax fleet and their weapons. Dr. Michael Petrov, the Intrepid's chief engineer, stepped closer to the displays, his eyes widening as he studied the technology. These Krodax ships, their design is unlike anything I've seen before. The energy signatures from their weapons are off the charts. Zoran nodded grimly. The Krodax have been advancing their technology for centuries, focusing solely on conquest and domination. They have little regard for the lives of others and see our people as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. Lena, the Intrepid science officer, furrowed her brow. What do you know about their shielding technology? Our scans showed that it's remarkably advanced. One of the Zephyrian scientists spoke up. The Krodax shields are capable of absorbing and dissipating enormous amounts of energy. Our weapons have had little effect on their ships, and they are able to shrug off even our most powerful attacks. Nora turned to Zoran. High Counselor, you mentioned that the Krodax fleet is vast. Do you have any estimates on their numbers? Zoran waved his hand, and the holographic display shifted to show a star map. Our intelligence suggests that the Krodax have amassed a fleet of over 1,000 warships. They have been conquering other worlds in the region, growing their numbers and resources with each victory. We fear that our planet is next on their list. Nora's expression grew determined. We won't let that happen, High Counselor. The Intrepid and her crew are here to stand with you against this threat. Dr. Petrov spoke up, his mind already working on possible solutions. If we can find a way to penetrate their shields, we might have a chance. I'll need to study the data you've collected on their technology more closely. Zoran bowed his head. We will provide you with all the information we have, Doctor. Our scientists will work closely with you to find a weakness in the Krodax defenses. Nora turned to her crew. All right, people, we have our work cut out for us. Lena, I want you to work with the Zephyrian scientists to analyze the Krodax technology. Dr. Petrov, focus on finding a way to counter their shields. Jace, work with their military to develop a coordinated defense strategy. We don't have much time, so let's get to it. As the intrepid crew dispersed to begin their tasks, Nora turned to Zoran. "High Counselor, I know your people are facing a daunting enemy, but I promise you this. We will do everything in our power to protect your world and stop the Krodax." Zoran placed a hand on Nora's shoulder, his expression grateful. "Your words bring hope to our people, Captain Hawkins. Together, I believe we can overcome this threat and secure a future of peace for both our worlds." With renewed determination, Nora and her crew set to work, their minds focused on the task at hand. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they were ready to face the challenge head-on, armed with the strength of human ingenuity and the unwavering spirit of cooperation. Preparing for battle. In the days that followed, the intrepid crew worked tirelessly alongside the Zephyrian scientists and military leaders to prepare for the impending Krodax attack. Dr. Petrov and Lena spent countless hours analyzing the alien technology, searching for any weaknesses they could exploit. "I think I might have something," Dr. Petrov announced during one of their brainstorming sessions. "The Krodax shields operate on a specific frequency. If we can create a weapon that disrupts that frequency, we might be able to penetrate their defenses." Lena nodded, her expression thoughtful. "We could modify the Intrepid's phase cannons to emit a pulse at the same frequency. It would take some work, but it's possible." Nora, who had been listening to the discussion, smiled. "Excellent work, both of you. Let's get started on those modifications right away. We'll need every advantage we can get." As Dr. Petrov and Lena set to work on the phase cannon modifications, Jace and the Zephyrian military leaders were developing a plan to defend against the Krodax fleet. "Our best chance is to use the planet's own defenses as a starting point," Jace explained, pointing to a holographic map of the Zephyrian homeworld. "If we can lure the Krodax ships into range of the planetary shield generators, we might be able to trap them and concentrate our fire." The Zephyrian commander, a tall, lithe figure named Raxon, nodded in agreement. "Our fighters can engage the Krodax ships once they're trapped, keeping them occupied while the Intrepid and our capital ships focus on taking out their larger vessels." Nora studied the map, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's a good plan, but we'll need to be careful. The Krodax are likely to have some tricks up their sleeves, and we can't afford to underestimate them." As the preparations continued, tension began to mount among both the Intrepid crew and the Zephyrian people. The Krodax fleet was drawing closer with each passing hour, and everyone knew that the fate of an entire world hung in the balance. Nora did her best to keep her crew focused and motivated, leading by example with her unwavering determination and confidence. She knew that the humans and Zephyrians were facing incredible odds, but she also knew that they had the strength and ingenuity to overcome any challenge. On the eve of the expected Krodax arrival, Nora gathered her crew in the Intrepid's mess hall. The room was filled with a sense of camaraderie and purpose, as the humans and Zephyrians, who had been working side by side for days, shared a meal and stories of their respective worlds. Nora raised her glass, her voice ringing out over the chatter. "To the crew of the Intrepid and our Zephyrian allies. Tomorrow, we face the greatest challenge of our lives, but I know that together, we have the strength to overcome any obstacle. We fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of this world and the ideals of peace and cooperation that we hold dear. To victory." The room erupted in cheers as humans and Zephyrians alike raised their glasses in a toast. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face it head-on, united in their determination to protect the innocent and stand against the forces of conquest and oppression. As the final preparations were made and the crews of the Intrepid and the Zephyrian ships settled in for a restless night, Nora stood on the bridge of her vessel, her eyes fixed on the stars above. She knew that the coming battle would test the limits of human ingenuity and resilience, but she also knew that as long as they stood together, there was no challenge they couldn't overcome. The final showdown. The Krodax fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry hornets, their ships bristling with weapons and their intentions clear. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Captain Nora Hawkins stood tall. Her eyes narrowed as she watched the alien vessels approach on the view screen. "Red alert," she called out, her voice steady. "All hands to battle stations. Jace, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet." Jace nodded, his fingers flying across the communications console. "Channel open, Captain." Nora took a deep breath. "This is Captain Hawkins of the Earth ship Intrepid. All ships, prepare to engage the enemy. Remember the plan and watch each other's backs. Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for the freedom of an entire world." As the Krodak ships closed in, the Intrepid and the Zephyrian fleet moved into position. The planetary defense systems came online, their shields shimmering into existence and creating a barrier between the invaders and their target. The Krodaks wasted no time, opening fire with a barrage of energy weapons that slammed into the planetary shields. The Intrepid and the Zephyrian ships returned fire, their modified phase cannons cutting through the enemy shields like a hot knife through butter. The battle was intense, with ships on both sides taking heavy damage. The Intrepid shuddered under the impact of enemy fire, its own shields straining to keep the vessel intact. Dr. Petrov's voice came over the comm, his tone urgent. "Captain, the phase cannon modifications are holding, but the power drain is enormous. We can't keep this up forever." Nora gritted her teeth. "Understood, Doctor. We'll make every shot count." As the battle raged on, the Krodak ships began to adapt, their own weapons shifting frequency to counter the modified phase cannons. The tide of the battle began to turn, with the Intrepid and the Zephyrian ships taking increasingly heavy damage. Nora watched as one of the Zephyrian fighters exploded in a brilliant flash of light, its pilot's life snuffed out in an instant. She felt a surge of anger and determination rising within her, a fierce resolve to protect the innocent and stand against the forces of oppression. "Jace, signal the Zephyrian fleet," she ordered. "It's time for our secret weapon." Jace nodded, his expression grim. "Aye, Captain." Moments later, a series of small, unmanned drones detached from the Intrepid and the Zephyrian capital ships. The drones, each one no larger than a human hand, sped towards the Krodak's fleet, their tiny forms almost invisible against the backdrop of the battle. As the drones closed in, they began to emit a powerful electromagnetic pulse, one that had been specifically designed to target the Krodak ship systems. The enemy vessels began to falter, their shields flickering and their weapons going offline. As the Krodak ships began to fall one by one, their hulls shattered and their crews lost to the void of space, Nora allowed herself a moment of hope. The secret weapon, the result of countless hours of collaboration between human and Zephyrian scientists, had worked better than anyone had dared to dream. But the battle was far from over. The Krodak's commander, a ruthless tactician known as Faxus, refused to accept defeat. With a snarl of rage, he ordered his remaining ships to concentrate their fire on the Intrepid, determined to take down the human vessel that had caused him so much trouble. The Intrepid shook violently as enemy fire slammed into its shields, alarms blaring across the bridge. Nora gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles turning white, as she fought to keep her ship and crew together. "Shields at 20%. Lena called out, her voice strained. "We can't take much more of this." Nora's mind raced, searching for a solution. She knew that if the Intrepid fell, the rest of the Zephyrian fleet would quickly follow, and the planet below would be left defenseless against the Krodak's onslaught. Suddenly, an idea struck her. It was risky, perhaps even suicidal, but it was their only chance. "Jace, open a channel to the Zephyrian flagship," she ordered, her voice calm and steady despite the chaos around her. Jace complied, and moments later, the face of Commander Raxon appeared on the view screen, his expression one of grim determination. "Commander, I have a plan," Nora said, wasting no time on pleasantries. "But I need your help." Raxon nodded, his eyes blazing with the fire of a warrior. "Name it, Captain Hawkins. We will stand with you to the end." Nora took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. I need you to take your ship and ram it into the Crodak's flagship. Create a diversion, buy us some time. The Intrepid will use the opening to launch a full spread of torpedoes targeted at the flagship's main reactor. With any luck, the explosion will take out the rest of their fleet. Raxon was silent for a moment, the weight of Nora's words sinking in. Then, slowly, he nodded. It will be done, Captain. For the freedom of our world and for the future of us all. As the Zephyrian flagship peeled away from the main battle, Nora turned to her crew, her heart heavy with the knowledge of what she was asking of them. This is it, people, she said, her voice ringing out across the bridge. We have one shot at this. Make it count. The crew of the Intrepid worked with a fierce determination, their hands flying across consoles and their eyes locked on their targets. As the Zephyrian flagship slammed into the Crodak's vessel, its shields flaring and its hull buckling under the impact, Nora gave the order. Fire torpedoes. A spread of glowing projectiles erupted from the Intrepid's launch bays, streaking towards the Crodak's flagship like avenging angels. The enemy ship tried to evade, but it was too late. The torpedoes struck home, piercing the weakened shields and burrowing deep into the vessel's heart. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the Crodak's flagship exploded in a blinding flash of light, the shockwave rippling out across the battlefield and slamming into the remaining enemy ships. One by one, they too began to fall, their crews consumed by the fire of their own destruction. On the bridge of the Intrepid, the crew erupted in cheers, their voices ringing out in a chorus of triumph and relief. Nora sagged back in her chair, her heart pounding and her mind reeling from the enormity of what they had just accomplished. But even as the last of the Crodak ships fell and the Zephyrian fleet began to regroup, Nora knew that their work was far from over. The Crodaks had been defeated, but the scars of the battle would linger long after the smoke had cleared. There would be mourning for the fallen and rebuilding for those who had survived. Yet as she looked out at the stars, at the glittering expanse of the universe that lay before them, Nora felt a sense of hope and purpose that she had never known before. They had stood against the darkness and emerged victorious, not through strength of arms alone, but through the power of unity and the indomitable spirit of sentient life. And as the Intrepid and the Zephyrian fleet set course for home, Nora knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as allies and as friends, united in the cause of peace and the promise of a better tomorrow. A new alliance. In the aftermath of the battle, the Intrepid and the remnants of the Zephyrian fleet limped back to the planet's surface, their hulls scared and their crews exhausted but triumphant. As the ships touched down on the landing pads of the capital city, crowds of Zephyrians gathered to cheer their saviors, their voices rising in a chorus of gratitude and relief. Captain Nora Hawkins and her crew disembarked from the Intrepid, their faces streaked with sweat and grime but their eyes shining with the light of victory. High Counselor Zoran was there to greet them, his own face a mask of emotion as he clasped Nora's hand in his own. "Captain Hawkins," he said, his voice thick with feeling. "Words cannot express the depth of our gratitude for what you and your crew have done. You have saved not just our world, but the very future of our species. We are forever in your debt." Nora smiled, her own eyes glistening with unused tears. "We did what we came here to do, High Counselor. But the real heroes are the brave men and women of the Zephyrian fleet who fought and died to defend their home. We simply stood with them, as allies and as friends." As the crowds cheered and the Zephyrian leaders offered their thanks, Nora and her crew began the long process of repairing their ship and tending to their wounds. Dr. Petrov and his team worked tirelessly to patch the Intrepid's damaged systems, while Lena and the medical staff treated the injured and comforted the grieving. Days turned into weeks as the humans and Zephyrians worked side by side, their bonds of friendship and cooperation growing stronger with each passing moment. Nora and Zoran met often, discussing the future of their two species and the role they would play in the broader galactic community. The Krodaks were not the only threat out there, Zoran said, his expression somber. There are other species, other empires, who would seek to conquer and dominate. We must be ready to stand against them, to fight for the ideals of peace and freedom that we hold dear. Nora nodded, her own face set in a look of determination. And we will, High Counselor. The Intrepid and her crew will continue to explore the stars, to seek out new allies, and to stand against those who would threaten the innocent. And we will always be ready to answer the call of our Zephyrian friends, should they ever need us again. As the repairs to the Intrepid neared completion, and the time came for the humans to depart, the Zephyrians gathered once more to bid their farewells. There were tears and embraces, promises of future visits and shared adventures. And as the Intrepid lifted off from the planet's surface, its engines roaring and its hull gleaming in the light of the Zephyrian sun, Nora knew that they were leaving behind more than just a world saved from destruction. They were leaving behind a piece of themselves, a bond of friendship and unity that would endure across the vastness of space and time. In the years that followed, the alliance between Earth and Zephyria only grew stronger. Trade routes were established, cultural exchanges were initiated, and scientific collaborations flourished. And whenever a new threat emerged, whenever a cry for help echoed across the stars, the Intrepid and her crew were there to answer the call, ready to stand against the darkness and to fight for the light of hope and unity. For Nora and her crew, it was more than just a mission. It was a calling, a purpose that gave meaning to their lives and their sacrifices. And as they ventured ever deeper into the unknown, as they faced new challenges and forged new bonds, they knew that they were not alone. They were part of something greater, a tapestry of life and hope that stretched across the galaxy and beyond. And though the road ahead would be long and the dangers many, they would face them together, united in the spirit of exploration and the unbreakable bonds of friendship. As the Intrepid disappeared into the depths of space, a shining beacon of hope and courage in the face of the unknown, Nora looked out at the stars and smiled. For she knew that whatever lay ahead, whatever challenges and triumphs the future might bring, they would face them as they always had. Together, as allies, as friends, as the defenders of the innocent and the champions of the free. And with that knowledge, that unshakable faith in the strength of unity and the power of the human spirit, Captain Nora Hawkins and the crew of the Intrepid ventured forth once more, ready to face the unknown and to shape the destiny of the galaxy, one star at a time.